Hey, it's Ethan here with eTrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Kuat Piston Pro Hitch Bike Rack and how it fits on our 2022 Nissan Frontier. Piston Pro is going to be a premium bike rack with a lot of premium features that we'll get into in this video, starting with the fact that it is a platform style rack, so it's going to hold our bikes up from the bottom here. It can hold two bikes up to 67 pounds each. It's going to hold them with this dual wheel mount design. There's no frame contact whatsoever, so if you want to mix and match your bikes on here, you can, whether that be carbon frame, a really aggressive alternative frame style bike. You can even get bikes with fenders on here as long as you pick up the strap kit. So let's take a closer look. The first feature we'll talk about is the ability for us to tilt the rack away with the bikes loaded up, which we can do using this handle here. It's not my favorite handle location, one of the few drawbacks I have about this rack, because if you do have another bike loaded up in the front, it's going to be hard to reach around and reach through and pull it down at the same time. But in our case, we don't have another bike on, so I'll pull that, and it tilts pretty aggressively, but still not quite enough for us to get full tailgate access. I'll open this up and you'll see how close we can get. So we get to about here before we're inevitably going to make contact with the bike. If you have a tonneau cover on your bed, now would be a good time to reach in and access things from the back that you might need. Otherwise, with the tilt, we do have enough room to step back here. If you don't have a tonneau cover, now would be the time to reach in and get things that you might need for your ride from the bed. And here's another one of few drawbacks, is just the fact that it's really hard to get leverage when you want to tilt the rack back up. Again, especially if you have two 67-pound bikes loaded up. But when I tilt it up, you hear it click into place, and now we can work on getting the bike removed. Here's where the piston name comes into play. So if I press this button, it releases these piston arms and disengages them from our tire. You see the Kashima coating on the struts. Another nod to that build quality. From here, I'm going to hold on to the front of my bike, because when I release the back one, the bike is going to be free to move around. And if we want to, we can push those arms further down. They do go all the way down, but in our case, we had enough room to get our bike up and off. On the wheel hoops, you can see that there are different tire sizes that we can adjust to accommodate. So all we need to do is pinch this on the back here, slide it up and down, let it find those holes, let it click back into place, and then we can accommodate the different tire sizes. As it comes, the rack is able to support a tire size of up to 5 inches, a wheelbase of 53 inches, and right here you can see that we do have a lock core for a cable lock that comes with the rack. It's not integrated onto the rack itself, but it does come with it, and then we can lock up a frame of our bike and keep everything secure right here on the tray. Overall, even with all of its features, the rack doesn't add a ton of distance onto the back of our vehicle, but if you're curious to know exactly how much it will add, I'll get a measurement from the bumper to the furthest point back. In this case, coming in at about 26 inches. Definitely not too bad compared to some other racks that we've tested. And as far as ground clearance goes, from the ground to this closest point here in the back, it's going to be about 27 inches. As high as you're going to have to lift that bike is going to be closer to 28 inches. If you do have a heavier bike, that's a number you're going to want to keep in mind. There's a nice rise in the shank overall, and it sits high enough I'm not going to be worried about ground clearance issues. But if you do need a little bit of help loading and unloading some heavier bikes, there is an optional ramp attachment you can buy separately to help you load those up. We can also fold the rack up towards the vehicle, pulling that same lever we used to tilt it away. It does get a little bit close here. I'll measure that in just a second, but first I'm going to see how much distance we've added on in this case. So from now, the bumper to the furthest point back, it's going to be about 11.5 inches, so it really does condense things quite a bit. But the trade-off is that it sits pretty close to our bed here. It's not a ton of movement, so I'm not going to be worried about it making contact. But from our closest point, it's going to be just about 2 inches, maybe closer to 1.75 inches here towards the middle. So again, it does sit pretty close, but the build quality isn't going to let it get any closer than that, so it's not going to make any contact. We can see what the rack covers up on the tailgate now, so it is really small overall, but it will cover up most of our license plate here down in the back. There might be a couple different angles to see it from on the side through here, through these trays, but it's going to be kind of tough. Our backup camera is right here in the middle. The rack sits pretty low, so it's not going to interfere with that a ton, but you're definitely going to know that it's there. It sits wide, but not so wide that it's going to interfere with our taillights. The rack uses a 2-inch shank that fits into our 2-inch hitch receiver, It's held in place by this pin and the lock on the end that's going to be key-like to the cable lock we mentioned earlier. It's all secured right here in the front with this anti-rattle bolt, which you secure down with a tool that's stored on the rack, so you don't have to remember to bring it. It integrates onto the rack. The tool itself will lock into place using the same key system. Overall, if you're looking for a rack that you can bring with pretty much any vehicle, including your flat tow, fifth wheel, motorhome, and travel trailers, as well as a rack that's going to be able to get pretty much any bike loaded on, whether that be e-bike, bikes with fenders, carbon frame, alternative frame, pretty much you can do anything as long as it's within that 67-pound weight capacity and that 53-inch wheelbase. And it's got a couple of other features that are just nice add-ons as well, just tilting away, folding up, and that light kit is optional, as well as the ramp. So if you're looking for a rack that gets the job done in pretty much any way possible that you can think of, Kuat Piston Pro is going to be that for you. If you like that dual wheel mount design and you don't necessarily need all those extra features, you could check out something like the Rocky Mount Skyd Rail. Works in a similar way with that dual wheel mount design, but you're going to lose a couple things as far as maximum tire size and overall build quality, but it's going to come in at more of an affordable price. If you're not worried about that and you do want the premium option, go with the Piston Pro. This was just a quick look at the Kuat Piston Pro and how it fits on our 2022 Nissan Frontier.
We're going to take it out here on the test course. First thing we're going to do is hit the bumps. We're just going to see what it's like if we did hit some speed bumps. I'm watching the bike, watching how it holds on the tires. It looks like it moves just a little bit, not too much. This is mostly standard with other bike racks, so nothing to worry about. The bike doesn't look like it's going anywhere. Now we're going to go a little bit faster in the parking lot. I'm going to take some aggressive turns and see how it handles there. Looks like it's fine. I see a little movement again, but again, the bike's not going anywhere, so I don't have to worry about it.